Hello and welcome to the setup tutorial for the first release of the quantum particles. In this video I'm going to show you how you can add the particles to your avatar using VRCFury, but also a manual setup with something like Armature 3.0 Manager. Depending on what setup you want to do, feel free to skip to the appropriate time frames. I'm going to have some timestamps in the description of the video, but the video should also be separated into sections named accordingly. Now let's begin with the VRCFury setup. So there are two ways that you can add the quantum particles to your avatar. Either you can just use the default prefab or use presets. I'm going to show you the default preset first. So for that, you go into the Quantum Particles Prefabs folder, and there should be a prefab called QP VRCFury Setup. You simply drag that into your scene, and then onto the avatar that you want to add the particles to, and that should be it. If we go into play mode now, VRCFury is going to do the rest, and we can test the particles here using the gesture manager. Turn them on. You see it works. We can also switch the tracking mode to VR, so you should be able to see them getting attracted to the hands instead. Down there. Yep. And that's all you need to do for the default setup. Now, if you want to use the presets, then instead of using the VRCFury setup prefab here, you go into the presets folder and drag the QP preset base into your scene and into your avatar, just like before. But now we also add all the presets that we want to use. So I'm just going to drag all of them into the scene here and then drag those onto the quantum particles game object inside the preset base. So it should look something like this. And after you've done that, again, VRCFury is going to do the rest. So we can just go into play mode, check it out with the gesture manager, and as you can see, we have the different presets here. We can play around with them, and it all just works. Alright, now for the manual setup, we need to use the QP avatar setup prefab instead. So I'm going to drag that into our scene and then unpack it first so we can move around its contents, because we'll have to move the quantum particles game object onto our avatar, and then everything inside of this move to armature bones game object you have to move to the respective bones that are here in those brackets. For the left hand and right hand ones, they don't have to necessarily go directly in your left and right hand. Those are just the two reference points used for the simulation, so I'm personally always putting them into the index bones. So I'm going to do that right now. But you can also put them in a different finger or put them into a completely different part of your body instead. So I'm going to drag the left hand one into my left index finger and make sure to reset the transform. Then I'm going to drag the right hand one into my right index finger, reset transform. And then you drag the neck proxy into the neck and the head proxy into the head, and make sure to, again, reset the transforms and also open up the neck proxy and adjust the position of the desktop anchor to be roughly on eye level or to your liking. This is the place where the particles will gather if you're on desktop mode. So usually on eye level, a bit further away like this is fine. Now this is it for the armature setup. So we can delete what's left of the prefab down here and move on to the expression stuff. So first we go to our FX controller, this one, and then we use something like the Armature 3.0 manager to add to this FX controller. We click Add Animator to merge, and then in the Quantum Particles folder, under Resources and Expressions, there's an FX layer here that we have to add to our existing one, Quantum Particles FX. I'm going to press Merge on New. You can also press Merge on Current if you don't need the backup. So I'm going to do that. Then we have all the FX layers merged. Next we go to the parameters, drag in the quantum particles parameters here and copy those over. And then lastly, we go to the menu that we use for our avatar and create a new entry here. Name it something like particles. You can also give it a picture here. Change it to a submenu and then drag in the quantum particles menu here from the expressions folder. After we did that, everything should be ready for testing. So let's go into play mode, gesture manager, and there are the particles. We can change some settings again, and everything seems to be working as intended. Okay, now lastly I'm going to show you how to do the manual setup for the presets. So to begin, we use the QP Avatar setup prefab again, and unpack it and drag the quantum particles onto your test avatar and the 4 other game objects here to their respective positions again. This is the same as the previous setup. I'm just repeating it for anyone who skipped over here. So we open up our neck and head and move in the 2 proxies. Make sure that after you move them into your armature, you reset the transforms. So I'm going to do that for the head and for the neck. And then if you open up the neck proxy, you have the desktop anchor, which you can move approximately to eye level, a bit distant. So this is where the desktop users will have the particles attracted to. For the left and right hand, they don't have to specifically go into the left hand and right hand bone, just somewhere on your armature where you want them. I personally always put them in the index fingers. Drag them in there, reset the transforms, drag the right hand one into the right index finger, reset the transforms, and that's it for the armature. So again, we can delete the QP avatar setup, what's remaining of it, and now move on to the expressions. With those we have to be a bit careful this time, because we go back to the Armature 3.0 manager again, and this time in the expressions folder we go to the presets and to the base, and then merge the base FX layer onto our current one. I'm going to merge it on the new one again. If you don't need the backup, just merge on current. There we go. And then in addition to the base, we also merge any of the preset FX layers that we want to use. So for demonstration, I'm only going to do it with the fire now. So I'm going to add the fire animator. This time I can merge it on the current one, and the snow one as well, because if you add a second preset, it's going to try adding some suffixes here to the names, but make sure to remove them, or otherwise it's not going to work. So make sure all of these here are blank, merge on current, and then we can continue with the parameters. So I added the fire and snow, which means that I'm also going to add the parameters for the snow, yes, and also the ones for fire. There we go. and of course don't forget the base. There we go. Now we have all the parameters for the base, fire and snow. And the last step, or not the last step, the next step is to add the menus. So again, this time we go into the menu here, add a main menu for the particles. There we go. Change it to submenu. And the menu is located inside of the base folder in the presets again. There are two, be careful not to add the wrong one. You need to add the quantum particles menu base. The other one is a submenu which contains all the presets. So here you add a control for every preset that you have. So I have one for fire, and then another one for snow. There we go. Change them to submenus. And then in the respective folders here, you add the menus to them like this. There we go. Now we have the menu set up. And now there's one last step, which is in the FX layer that we have here now, we need to go into the animator settings. You can get there here through Window, Animation, Animator, and then look for the activate layers. So I have one here, fire activate, and another one further down here for snow activate. In those activation layers, we need to change some values in the on and off states. So you can see here, there are these different layers that are being turned on and off with the preset, and we need to adjust these layer values depending on which layer is activated on right now. So the activate layer here is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th, which means we need to set these values to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and so on. There we go. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, yep. And the same for the off state. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There we go. And then do the same for the snow activate layer. So in this case, again, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So the snow activation level is the 17th one, which means we start at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yep, and the same for the off state. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. There we go. And this has to be done so the different layers here can get properly activated and deactivated depending on what preset you have active, because otherwise those layers would interfere with each other. So now that we have that set up, we should be able to go into play mode and test out the particles. So the snow is our default setting here, and we can switch over to the fire, and there we go. Our two presets properly set up. I'm gonna test very quick, reload, yes, works fine. there you go. That's it for the manual setup. If you have any more questions or feedback or feature requests, feel free to let me know on the Discord server. Everything should be linked in the video description below. And if you want to have access to new features early, then feel free to support me on Patreon. But besides that, I hope you enjoyed. I wish you a lot of fun, and goodbye.